Regina Spektor is here. The Russian-born singer-songwriter has been called her generation's Joni Mitchell. She's equal parts whimsical storyteller and classically trained pianist. Tom Petty called her one of the most talented musicians alive today. Her seventh album finds Spektor returning to her musical roots. It is called Remember Us to Life. Rolling Stone says the album is full of brilliant underdog songs. Here is Regina Spektor performing Older and Taller in our studio.
I remember you older and taller, but you're younger and smaller. So who's gonna call her and say that you're back again? And all the lies, they were wiser, and the wise were the liars, and the liars were on fire, and the fires were put out just to be lit again. You're alone till you're not alone, and that's all you need to know. Every time you decide to stay, then the world will make you go, and that's all you need to know. All the debts, they got settled, and the settlers got cattle, but the cattle was rattled by the snakes that were guarding the garden gates. And you retired just in time. You were about to be fired for being so tired from hiring the ones who will take your place. All the lies on your resume have become the truth by now, and the things that you never did have become your youth somehow. You know everything by now. Enjoy your youth. Sounds like a threat. Enjoy your youth. Sounds like a threat, but I will anyway. I remembered you older and taller, but you're younger and smaller. So who's gonna call her and say that you're here at last? And all the days, they were longer, and the drinks, they were stronger. The words we sang wrong, but the songs were remembered, and time just passed. You're around till you're not around, and that's all you'll need to know. Every time you decide to stay, then the world will make you go, and that's all you need to know. Enjoy your youth. Sounds like a threat. Enjoy your youth. Sounds like a threat, but I will anyway.
I'm pleased to have Regina Spektor at this table for the first time. Welcome.
Thank you, Charlie.
It's great to have you
I'm
here.
so glad to be here. I just love you and the show very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
We're
you.
honored to have you here.
Thank you.
And congratulations on this.
Thank you.
This is quite something. Does the reference to Joni Mitchell please you?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, to me, she's one of the most incredible and unique musicians. And when I discovered her music, it actually gave me the realization that I could maybe try and write some songs too. Because I think in my mind it was sort of relegated, because I loved so many bands like the Beatles or Queen or the Moody Blues, and then there were the Russian bard singers like Vladimir Vysotsky and Akudjava and Galich. It was all these men, And for some reason, I just thought, I don't know what I thought, but I didn't think that I should be writing songs.
Tell us about your musical journey, from Russia to the U.S.
Well, I think that my journey has a lot to do with kind people who decided to help, because both my parents are artists and artistic, and they really believed in, share art, share classical concerts. Music was always playing in the house, and they decided to teach me music. And even though my mom was a piano teacher, she really thought that it would be better for me to study with a separate teacher, because then you don't have this kind of oppressive childhood where your parent is your teacher and they know what you should be doing. And so she was able to help, and I had an amazing teacher in Moscow. As a matter of fact, that was really the only thing that was kind of holding my parents back when they wanted to immigrate to America, was knowing that I probably wouldn't learn music anymore.
From the same teacher.
From the same teacher, or maybe at all, because, you have to pay for music education, and nobody spoke the language, and they really didn't know what kind of life they were going to have here. Now that I'm an adult, I see what they were facing, and it's mind-boggling to me, the strength you have to leave your country, leave your language, to start a better life for your children.
Leave everything.
Everything, all your things. I mean, the piano that I played on, we had to leave. I didn't have a piano for years after that. And the reason why I was able to continue my studies is that we moved to the Bronx, and my father took a night job, and he was coming home on the subway back to our neighborhood in Kingsbridge, and there was a man on the train who was older, and he had a violin case next to him, and my dad had played violin, and they started a conversation, because my dad is very much a people's person, and he loves to know people's stories. And the man invited us all to their house, to him and his wife's house, to hear some classical music being played, because my dad mentioned that we hadn't heard concerts in a long time, and we weren't really going to, because that's not what we had the money to be spending on tickets, So when we went to their house, I asked Sonia Vargas, and the gentleman was Samuel Martyr. I asked her to be my teacher, and she said, of course. And that's really the reason why I was able to study music from the age of 10 and onwards, and have the skills.
And what did you want to be? And what did you want to do?
Well, this is interesting, because when I was really little, I kept saying I wanted to be a composer. And it was explained to me by very nice, common sense people that it's very hard to be a composer, and you have to be brilliant to be a composer. But you could be a classical pianist if you want to, and you could play brilliant people's work. And then somewhere along that line, I stopped saying composer, and I started saying that I wanted to be a classical pianist. Except when I hit the teenage years, the thing that I hadn't realized was that more than your love of music, your emotions, your desperate need to play, you also had to have a talent for a certain kind of work ethic. And that work ethic is a talent in itself. And I didn't have it when it came to sitting those hours and hours. And there's that, it's like the plane taking off. You have to reach that certain kind of speed to become a classical musician, which is basically an Olympian of music. And I couldn't reach it because I wanted to, scribble thoughts in a notebook.
You wanted to write songs?
I didn't know it yet, but I wanted to write songs. I wanted to write poetry. I wanted to read books as opposed to sit and practice. So
how did you get to where you are so that Tom Petty and everybody else thinks that you're so terrific?
Well, I was always humming to myself and singing to myself and singing a lot in the shower, and just, I didn't realize I was doing it. And then I went on this trip as a teenager to Israel on a scholarship. And the trip was basically for teenagers that were interested in the arts and interested in discovering more about their cultural heritage. Mm-hmm. And I was always, since coming to America, I was very interested in learning about my Jewish heritage because it had been so forbidden in Soviet Russia. And so when we got to America, I went to yeshiva and I learned about the holidays, and it was just another part of figuring out my people's story. And when I went there, hiking in the desert was so difficult that I guess I was singing a lot to myself as I was hiking. And so all these kids started kind of hiking around me, and they said, you know, you have a really good voice and you should try and write songs and you should learn an instrument. And that was sort of, I think I'm one of those people, it takes me like to the very obvious thing. And that's when I started to try and write songs, when I got back to New York.
And you still play the piano?
Yeah, no, I love playing and I love writing. All these songs have been written in the last few years. All my previous albums have spanned sometimes 10 years of picking songs from yesterday and from, 10 years earlier, and they've been mixed. This is all new work, and it's really hard to analyze your own work, but I felt like these songs needed to be together because I felt like I was changing, and I was sort of in some strange way growing up, because during the making and the writing of this album, I had previously lost people in my life that I loved very much, and it was sort of my first like deep dive into grief, which I had really been sheltered from. And then after that, I was pregnant and then had my child, my son, and so all of that was this strange, this strange experience of a new type of, living in a new type of reality where I felt like I wasn't the child anymore. I was now the parent, and I wasn't maybe carefree in the world. I was experiencing what so many others have been experiencing for a long time. I just sort of stepped into it. And it was this kind of bittersweet welcome into this new type of reality.
Take a look at this. We're going to show a clip from the music video for The Trapper and the Third. How would you describe your sound? I mean, you've described it as using orchestral colors.
Mm-hmm. I think it's hard for me to think of myself and a sound.
Yes.
Because I am generating music a lot of the time, and it comes from just being in the world and oftentimes walking, especially in New York. When I walk to a place, I will write, and then once I have to come into and actually really write, not just in my imagination, then I have to go from these abstract imaginary sounds into real life. So I could hear a sound in my head, but when I touch the piano, it's like being woken from a dream, and you kind of remember the abstracted sounds of your imagination, but this is a real life physical thing. It has hammers, it has strings, it was built. And so you're translating yourself, you're kind of translating your soul through these physical objects like violins and voice and piano. So I just kind of explore as much as I can, because trying to reach those imaginary colors and not just completely ignore them, but be in the real world is a struggle.
How are you evolving as a musician? I mean, you're no longer an emerging artist, are you?
I feel like I am. You know, I don't know. I think that my interest lies so much in the discovery of music and just the pleasure of making art is so great, and the moments when I get to do it, I feel so privileged to do it, that's what I think about. So it's hard to know where I am in the trajectory of how I'm perceived or what I should be doing. I just sort of think, oh, this is this song. What does it need? Okay, that's done. Now this is this song. Oh, it needs something completely opposite. Okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
You know?
How much of your work is autobiographical?
Also very hard to know, because so much of the fun for me comes from the imagination and trying to get out of my own perspective and experience other perspectives. I think that when I think of my tribe, I think of fiction writers and poets and also playwrights. I really love...
Like?
Oh, a billion, like Salinger and Chekhov and Pushkin. I mean, not that I would...
But Philip Roth or...
Philip Roth, too. I feel like he's much more... Well, maybe I'll get there. He's darker than I am. I feel like with everything that's happening in the world, I might get there, you know?
But it's more classical novelists and playwrights like Chekhov and...
Yeah, and also, you know, Bulgakov and Gogol and Kafka. I feel very much at home in the surreal. That's where I feel at home. When I'm in the real world, sometimes I have to almost pretend because it seems so surreal to me.
Yeah, but there are those who say that your music is autobiographical and that this album is more autobiographical than previous.
Well, that's the thing. I think that in our world, in the arts, we have created this false divide between confessional artists and fiction artists. And then there's this narrative that the confessional people really care and they're putting their real soul into it and it's soulful and honest. And that fiction writers are just making stuff up and they're sort of arm's length. But to me, a Dylan song is not any less about, you know, even though it's surreal and it has images from biblical and historic and all these other things that he's pulling from, it's not any less of his soul than Joni Mitchell, who is writing from her life story. And I feel like my soul and my personal experience is in everything. But
is that because you were having a baby and all of that?
Some of it is that. I mean, that's a lot.
He was born in 2014.
Yeah. But, you know, I think some of it is just that it takes time to make art the way that you really hear it. I mean, there are songs on here that have, you know, maybe more than 200, 300 tracks in one song, where we have sounds and layers and where we went down one path and then scrapped it and went down another path. So it just takes time.
How then do you create your art? How then do you write a song?
Well, I feel like if I knew exactly the answer to it, I would have a lot more songs, first of all. But second of all, I think that it's a combination of letting certain stories and certain emotions, there's like an intake process and then an output process. And then when things kind of live through your system and you meet certain inspiring individuals, you read certain inspiring things, you see enough stories unfold before your eyes, then you are compelled to, in that moment, to write a song. But I don't really know. I do feel like it's inspiration, and then sometimes it happens and sometimes.
But when you write songs, do you think of melody? Do you think of the music, or is it simply words that you will find the music for later?
No, I usually write at the same time. So I will go usually to the piano and I will sing the words and play the piano, and it kind of comes out the same time, and then I sort of play it over and over, maybe sometimes like 500 times in a row until it all just settles in itself.
Did you once write all the lies on your resume have become truth by now? I mean, what did that line mean?
Again, it's really hard to say, because the thing is, so I just came off of a tour, right? And I was just playing these songs. I just played in the UK and in Europe. And I was playing these songs, a lot of them that are new to me from this new record. And on different nights, different lines would hit me a certain way, of my own lines that I wrote. And I would think, oh, that means this. I mean, it was, I had this really incredible experience of because I had a before and an after. You know, we found out about the election results in the UK, and certain songs that I had played in one way, the lines meant something else to me after. And I feel like they are my friends, and I lean on them, and I don't fully know what they mean, but the comfort that I have of playing them year after year is that they mean more than I know. So I don't want to limit them with my understanding of them at this moment, because in 5 years, it could mean something else to me, or something can happen, and that line will take on a totally different meaning.
Is this both pop and classical?
Yes. And I love both very much. And classical is my home, you know, it's before my consciousness even, like, it was just there. It was always there, kind of like air.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you,
It's
Charlie.
great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
The album is called Remember Us to Life. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.
Somewhere below the Grand Hotel, there is a tunnel that leads down to hell. Take the dumbwaiter, the laundry chute, then sneak through the hall past the boys' shining boots, then left at the courtyard, through the old garden where all the bellhops smoke with the guards, and then you run to the old lake house, down to the old lake house, run to the old lake house where it begins. Under the floorboards there's a deep well that leads to a spring that sprung up in hell. That's where old devils danced and kissed and made their blood pacts in the ancient mists. And running through forest they screamed the chorus while piercing fair maidens' chests with their horns. And then they lay in the grass till the dawn came, sleeping away till the dawn came. Lay in the grass where now stands the Grand Hotel. The maitre d' and a fancy chef, silver's real, liquor's top shelf. Play some tennis, swim in a pool, stroll the garden shady and cool. You won't care that the devils won't mind, that the devils won't know that the devils are near. Somewhere below the Grand Hotel, there is a tunnel that leads straight to hell. But no one comes up for the souls anymore. They come for some comfort and for the dance floor. And hiding sharp horns under fedoras, do not disturb signs instead of a chorus. They toss and turn till the dawn comes, on soft sheets till the dawn comes. No one sleeps at the Grand Hotel. Room service, mini bar, scented soaps, chauffeured cars. Stay a day, stay a week, here's the tunnel, take a peek. Just call up your friends at the front desk, any hour at the front desk. Call up your friends at the Grand Hotel. the grand